Iyer, an author. Let me rope in Dr. Swamy first if I can. Dr. Swamy, good evening and thank you for taking a few questions with us. The simple first question is, because the money trail in this entire episode is going to be the crucial bit of evidence, can we suggest, or are you convinced that such a money trail, from what you've seen in the public domain, that such a money trail exists? Dr. Swamy. Yes, go ahead.
Well, her evidence she gave was before a magistrate, which is called the Section 164 statement, which is considered as evidence. Whatever she speaks to the police or to the CBI is not considered as evidence. But this is solid evidence because she gave it before a magistrate, and the magistrate inquires first, are you under any pressure, and have you had a deal or any, all these he can ask these questions, which he does. Now, in that evidence, she says that Mr. Chidambaram said to her that, give my son some money for his work, and she did. And she gave accurate details of the bank in which she deposited the money, and that later on, by raid of the enforcement directorate, it was discovered. So it is established that the amount she said he asked for is the amount that was found as having been deposited by her in Karti Chidambaram's account. He had also made some other disgraceful requests to Indrani, which I will not go into detail. For example, wanting to actresses from Bombay Bollywood to be with him, and that she should arrange it. The kind of thing. I mean, he was absolutely base when it came to doing corrupt practices. Now he has to be confronted. When he was in interrogation, he kept denying everything. But now he has to be confronted with solid evidence. So that before we go to trial, we get his version, which is required under the CRPC. Now,
Dr. Swamy, as you will recall, sir, now during the 2G case, for example, the debate hinged around whether a policy decision was taken by a particular minister over a particular case that was put in front of him, or whether this was some sort of bribery, crony capitalism, or corruption. And the case hinged around that. Where do you see that in this case? Do you see, or can an argument of a policy decision be made by a person whose job it was to decide on such matters?
No, you can't have a policy if you are only entitled to clear projects below 600 crores, and you cover clear a project by yourself or approve a project by yourself which is 4,300 crores or 500 crores. There is no question of policy here. The policy is the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs had clearly laid down up to 600 crores your finance minister can clear or approve. But beyond that, it has to come to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. So where is the question of policy? This is a law. This is a rule laid down by the Cabinet, which he violated. So, I mean, in this particular case, there is no question of policy. In the 2G thing, the only mistake was that I think I made a mistake in not being in the criminal prosecution side because I thought that this will be handled by the CBI, but there has been some. Anyway, we'll see in the appeal.
All right, Dr. Swamy, now the Chidambarams have repeatedly, and in court now, they've claimed that this is harassment, and they say that this is some sort of political vendetta. Is there, or should there, or can there be a potential grudge to bear for some cause or the other against them or P. Chidambaram or any of his family members?
Well, I think if there was a political vendetta and harassment, it was Mr. Chidambaram ordering one of our finest officers called Purohit and subjecting him to third degree, the kind of third degree they subjected to such a fine officer. That I think itself, Chidambaram needs to be prosecuted for that. But more than that, who are they? I mean, they are the ones who declared the emergency. They are the ones who have created this Hindu terror and put Sadhvi Pragya also and subjected to her to physical torture. Sadhvi. And ruined her health.
Dr. Swamy, now here we've seen a case that has been brought to the premise of a investigation and a trial by a recorded statement made by Indrani Mukherjee that you were alluding to earlier, we were talking about earlier. Is there a prospect that you suspect that if one case exists, that there might be others, that this could be more deep-rooted and not limited to the one case that we are now talking about, which is happening in court?
You know that the finance minister had in his budget reduced the allocation for new recruitment of all our, not only our military but also of our agencies. They are all overworked. I'm surprised that they are producing such good results. The next case after these two will be AirAsia, where the FIPB clearance given by or approval given by Mr. Chidambaram is another scandal, which is now just waiting for it to be converted into a prosecution. So there are plenty, but there is a huge shortage. And look at what happened to Rajeshwar. I mean, that's a scandal of the century, if you ask me. The way he was sought to be framed and got out so that Mr. Chidambaram cannot be prosecuted. I think all those 4 officers who were responsible, whom I call as gang of 4, they should be prosecuted and put in jail. But Rajeshwar has been, his promotion has been, file has been held up by the finance secretary for the last 8 months, and he is answerable to nobody. What kind of thing is going on? Do we have a bureaucracy which is sensitive to our government, or is it a bureaucracy which belongs, its loyalties belong to the previous
Dr. Subramanian Swamy, for taking the straight questions, thanks very much. We'll leave it there. I'm going to And I think that answers my question. That would be the weighty evidence would lie there. At what point of time, Sree Iyer, that we will have to, or a court will have to be brought before or presented before it, indisputable evidence of money actually having exchanged hands rather than figurative claims?
I believe the money is, the proof is already there with the CBI that they can present it. Right now, I believe the courts are just looking at a narrow thing about whether they should give anticipatory bail to Mr. Chidambaram or not. But if needed, the CBI can and should present the information. In fact, I have a lot more information. I have written about it in PGurus.com, so readers can read up on this. But the bigger concern I have, Rishabh, is the safety of Indrani Mukherjee. I really would like, and I would implore the Maharashtra police to take good care of her, because she needs to be cross-examined.
Okay, qualify that, sir, because there have been two times when she's been hospitalized during her stay in Arthur Road jail, and she has claimed that her life is under threat after she's come out with claims against P. Chidambaram. So just qualify that statement when you say safety of Indrani.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, we have to make sure. See, what happened the second time, there has been an investigation ordered. I don't know the results of that, but I believe she was either food poisoned or drug or something that happened. Long story short, there are enough incentives to make her not appear as
because given the seriousness, Sree Iyer,
cross-examined.
Now, you're not a representative of any government body or any political party on either side of the spectrum. So given the seriousness of the potential that crony capitalists were able to access one of the highest offices under the UPA government, were able to swing deals, potentially seek favors for money transactions, and what you are suggesting and what Indrani Mukherjee has claimed, that in order to cover up, there might potentially be a conspiracy even to kill someone within a jail premises. These are very, very serious things, given how serious they are. Are you satisfied at the kind of pace that the investigation is going at?
You know, that's a very good question, especially in light of the fact that the outgoing Prime Minister of Malaysia is in jail in 4 weeks. And 4 years have elapsed, and the Narendra Modi government has not put a single UPA minister behind bars. This is what the people are going to ask. I mean, I'm basically echoing people's thoughts. Mr. Modi has to answer this question.
Okay, just stay with me, sir. My producer is just telling me, and we'll just rope in a voice who understands the case very well from Chidambaram's point of view, which we put on record. Abhishek Manu Singhvi joining us. He's, of course, a Congress Rajya Sabha MP and also one of the most senior lawyers in the country. Dr. Singhvi, a very good evening. Let me just quickly begin with you, because there have been very specific allegations that have been made by Indrani Mukherjee. Why do you think, on what grounds, that these allegations prima facie are not believable?
I think there are a lot of misapprehensions and misinformation going on about this case.
Okay.
I don't intend to discuss the verities of that in terms of a sub judice matter. All I want to tell you are the contentions raised by Mr. Chidambaram, which we have presented. First and foremost, bail was granted more than a month ago. For over a month, the government has not yet even filed a reply. Obviously, they don't find it to be an open and shut case.
Okay.
The reply is still to be received by us, and as when it will be received, I think appropriate rejoinder will be given. But for over a month, there has been no reply. Bail has been there and bail has been continued. Secondly, in this matter, Peter Mukherjee, Indrani Mukherjee, two other accused, all these are named in the FIR. Even all of them have got bail, the named persons. Thirdly, Mr. Chidambaram is nowhere named. Nowhere. And it is strange that the prosecution appears to suggest that a person who is not named, whereas others who are named have all got bail, and yet they want custodial interrogation of a person not even named in the FIR.
Okay.
Number 4, this offence is more than 7, 8, 9 years old. There is not an iota of material which has been produced. The FIPB individual secretary level, Government of India secretary level people have been examined. Not one of them has suggested that there was anything in terms of interference by Mr. Chidambaram in a wrongful manner.
Okay.
They are all very, very senior officers of the Government of India.
Okay, but was it not the case, sir?
Number 5, Mr. Chidambaram only approves what these eminent 4-5 people recommend. So I think it's unfortunately many years, almost a decade, 7, 8 years later, some degree of retrospective vendetta going on. And in any event, I am sure, accordance with law, the courts will decide.
But was it not the case? Dr. Singhvi, if you'll allow the interjection, was it not the case, that Mr. P. Chidambaram, as Union Minister, gave that FIPB clearance in his own capacity to certain levels that exceeded what was permitted as per the rules?
It's a complete falsehood. That's an allegation, no doubt. And ultimately the court will decide. But according to the defense, it is a complete falsehood for two simple reasons. First of all, Chidambaram only approved what the FIPB board, after applying mind, recommended.
Okay.
He did not do anything on his own at all. Second, that value figure you are taking is the value well within his limits. What they are doing is they are inflating the value by suggesting some kind of market value of the shares which are at the upper stream. The investment shares which are to come here are at a much lower value. And therefore, the value which is the correct value, which is taken as per FIPB guidelines, which apply not to this case but to all cases, make that limit well within the limit of the minister to approve.
Okay.
Now they are applying a value calculation system which is not as per FIPB norms.
Okay.
Only to bring out this allegation and rope in Mr. Chidambaram.
Okay, so why is Mr. Chidambaram then asking the courts to shield him from being questioned in custody by the CBI?
There is no question of being shielded. The prosecution has called him once from 10 to 4, made him largely sit twiddling his thumbs and asked a few inconsequential questions, and he has gladly gone. He's prepared to go again. Please call him tomorrow. Please call him day after. Please ask him meaningful questions. How does that require custody after 9 years? He has never avoided. He's been called only once. And on that once he has gone and sat for 7 hours. He's prepared to be, if he's called legitimately for anything meaningful, he's prepared to go any time. We have said so. The point is, you want to harass, you want to humiliate, you want to create unnecessary, intrusive, prejudicial harassment.
Okay.
And you're doing this
you're calling it harassment.
Where is the question of custody? It's a documentary issue. 7, 8 years old, you put the document, see it, call him.
You're calling it harassment. Dr. Singhvi, you're calling it harassment, political vendetta. What is the cause of any political party having a grudge to bear on Mr. Chidambaram if he's never done anything wrong?
Can you ask me that question? You have to ask that question of the person who have a grudge against him. They are the ones who are acting mala fide.
Okay.
Merely because he happens to be
so would it simply
political
then
opposition.
So would it simply then be best for a court to try this case and rule one way or the other?
That's exactly the point we have made. You can go into the case, you can file a charge sheet, you can expedite it, you can start the trial, and if you are lucky and if you are so great and good in the case you have, then get a conviction. None of those things are being done. There is no expedition, there is no charge sheet.
Okay.
Only thing is humiliate by seeking interim custodial interrogation.
Okay. Dr. Singhvi, before I let you go, I have to ask you this. Does Mr. Chidambaram enjoy the full support of the Congress party in fighting this case?
See, we are talking of two answers. First and foremost, we are talking of criminal law. Criminal law doesn't apply to political parties, it applies to individual. So he has to face it himself. But having said that, you can rest assured, and you have seen it in the press briefings, you have seen it in the statements, not only by me as a spokesperson, but by the Congress party as a whole.
Okay.
That is fully behind him.
Okay.
This is, again, another canard being spread.
Okay.
Obviously, since he's an individual accused, he has to stand up and face it in court. But the party is fully behind him because the party does think that it's a very unfortunate witch hunt.
All right. Abhishek Manu Singhvi is still calling it a witch hunt. We'll leave it there, sir. Thanks very much for joining us. I'll let you carry on with your evening. Let me quickly rope in Sree Iyer. I know he wants to come in. Sree Iyer, you heard it from Abhishek Manu Singhvi. He says that P. Chidambaram was called once. He sat there for 7 hours. He was asked inconsequential questions. He's willing to cooperate with the investigation if it's reasonable.
Just minutes before this program went live, we published an article wherein the CBI today in the court alleged that Mr. Chidambaram would not give an answer, a simple answer to even one question. He kept evading all the questions. He was not twiddling his thumbs. All he was doing is indulging in verbal diarrhea of trying to give evasive answers. This was what the CBI lawyer presented in the court today. As to Mr. Singhvi's assertion that Mr. Chidambaram is not named in the original FIR, it doesn't have to be that way. The investigative agencies can add another person afterwards. They don't have to tell all the cards that they are carrying with them. Why should they? After all, Dr. Swamy said there is a gang of 4 trying to save Chidambaram at all costs. First of all, let Mr. Modi get rid of this gang of 4. Then we will talk.
Okay. Let me pose the same question.
Quick.
Okay, let me pose then the same question to Sree Iyer. And Sree Iyer, there are many, and I know you're one of them, who are convinced that there is some sort of gang of 4 you mentioned who've been trying to shield this investigative process. Perhaps they themselves have something to either gain or lose if the truth comes out in one way or the other. So how do we find the truth? How do we actually get there?
I think, first of all, the investigative officer, Mr. Rajeshwar Singh, should be allowed to do his job. Second of all, I am told that there are some ministries in the current government that have not given an okay for Mr. Rajeshwar Singh to file the charge sheet against Mr. Chidambaram. Mr. Modi, please tell your ministers, whoever they are, to not put any obstacles in the way of Rajeshwar Singh. For God's sake, you have made him really a witch hunt on that person. What did he do? He's just trying to do his job. I'm really sorry about the way this government has gone about dealing with Dr. Rajeshwar Singh.
Okay.
So please, please, for God's sake, act now.
Okay, I'm running short of time. Just got a couple of questions. 30 seconds, Geeta Luthra. On a substantive issue of law, for our viewers watching this, if it can be proved, and this is speculative, I understand, but just help us understand the law. If it can be proved that money at whatever amount exchanged hands at a time very suspicious when a policy decision was done that favored someone, what is the potential criminality in this?
See, so this is going to be purely hypothetical and is going to be just answering a legal query.
Yes.
So you would be liable under Prevention of Corruption Act if you are giving bribes, and if you are doing it for gratification, for getting an order in your favor which otherwise would not have been made or would have been made, but which you have done on the basis of receiving monies. So you have also bent rules. So the question then is that that becomes a matter of trial, both under Prevention of Corruption Act, and there would be many other provisions of law, maybe destroying evidence, maybe fabricating evidence, all those ancillary provisions of law which may or may not get added. I have not seen the CBI case so far, and therefore I am not sure, but this will be the fulcrum of their case.
Sree Iyer, for our viewers watching this broadcast, as an educative, there are different charges that are being faced by Karti Chidambaram. Karti Chidambaram is not an elected representative, he's never served in government. P. Chidambaram is or has been an elected representative who has served in government. What would be the different realms of the law? I presume PML, your Prevention of Money Laundering Act, would be applicable in one case, and potentially the Representations of People Act provisions, as well as the Prevention of Corruption that Geeta Luthra pointed, would be applicable if deemed fit.
You know, if the investigative agencies are allowed to do their job, there are 24 illegal FIPB clearances by Mr. P. Chidambaram, and it's my contention that Mr. Karti Chidambaram is probably involved in every one of them. Like trains arriving in a platform, in a different platform than a station, you're going to have one after the other coming in. And by the way, this is just a drop in the bucket. There is one other big scam which we are not talking about here, but I have written in my book called C Company, and I would like SEBI and the government to look into that, because that involves a magnitude higher crime committed by the Chidambaram family.
Very